closer to giving in. Every time I end up here, so I breathe just to feel my chest getting bigger, scream loud enough to remind me that I can fight. And I will dance, 'cause this spinning is my heartbeat. And I will fly, 'cause the stars are always calling in my love. Yeah, I know that she is waiting. Oh, I'm alive, and that's what I'm living for. I'm on the ground again, in a bed of daisies. So I take in the oxygen, 'cause I wanna stand like trees. So I breathe just to feel my chest getting bigger, scream loud enough to remind me that I can fight. Oh, and I will dance, 'cause this spinning is my heartbeat. And I will fly, 'cause the stars are always calling in my love. Yeah, I know that she is waiting. Oh, I'm alive, and that's what I'm living for. Oh, that's what I'm living for. That's what I'm living for. My beating heart, kind and loud. Yes, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming home. Getting up is the bravest sound. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming home. My beating heart, kind and loud. Yes, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming home. Getting up is the bravest sound. Yes, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And I will dance, 'cause this spinning is my heartbeat. And I will fly, 'cause the stars are always calling in my love. Yeah, I know that she is waiting. Oh, I'm alive, and that's what I'm living. Oh, I'm alive, and that's what I'm living for.
All right. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be in this beautiful, transformative, awakening planet of ours. This is Metaphysical Mocha Mondays. I am your host, Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector. Beautiful song called I Will Dance, and I think that's a lot of what we can do today with everything going on in the world, things that we can't control, equanimity, serenity, and sometimes all we can do is just dance and dance in the chaos, dance in the changings that's taking place on our planet. So hello to everybody. Grab your coffee, grab your tea. Let's move into the magic of the moment. This morning I'm going to be talking about visiting hours. It's something, if you follow my show, I don't have a script. I don't have a plan. I sit and I meditate. I get up, I do some Qigong, I think about the day and kind of tune into consciousness. And then I come on here on Monday mornings at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, to promote through my platforms of positivity, whether it's here on Facebook, over on my YouTube channel, Soul Adventures, on my TikTok channel, which I'm about to hit 500 followers, which is just crazy. But I do a lot of fun over on TikTok now, my Instagram page, and of course my Inspired Living Radio podcast show pages, which is also Twitter and Instagram, and here on Facebook. But I use those platforms of positivity to talk about things that are encouraging, motivating, inspiring, get you thinking outside the box. You may not always agree with what I say, and that's totally fine. That's democracy. That is our society. But I just try to plant seeds of metaphysics, awareness, awakening, consciousness, transformations, healing, psychic, mediumship, meditations. Just plant those seeds to try to create the vibration and try to create a resonance, an energy for moving forward. Because I really do believe that our best days are ahead of us. So we do that with coffee or tea. So grab your coffee, grab your tea. I've got my man mug this morning. Kind of got my Intuitive Prospector prospecting shirt on, ready to dive back in. Good morning to my team. Thank you for volunteering to be here this morning, and also in the Healing Cafe. The Healing Cafe will start here in about a half hour, where we do live readings, Q&A, spiritual chats. You can ask me questions. You can ask for a reading. You can become one of my top fans by interacting with the page and also subscribing to the page. So it's really important that you subscribe to the page, because the way the algorithms work on Facebook and social media is based on subscription, based on like, based on following. And then also when you contribute, that's how you get your top fan badge, or contributor, or sharer, or fan. And then also if you're a star sender, I usually work with my star senders and my top fans first, and then I try to get to everybody else. But it's my way of Monday morning just setting the tone, setting positivity, encouragement, inspiration, motivation, just to pay it forward, just to create a spot every Monday morning that you know that you can come here on Facebook or over on my YouTube channel, and just get some inspiration, get some food for thought, and get some different ways of thinking about things. So this morning, I was trying to think about what I was going to talk about, because there's just so much going on in the world, right? There's just a lot going on in the world. Let me make sure that this is broadcasting okay. So bear with me here. Let me just minimize here. Make sure we're over on Facebook. It does say it's broadcast on Facebook, but I always just double check to make sure that we are streaming live. Okay, where are you, Facebook? I need coffee. It's Monday. So how's everybody doing with everything that is going on in our world? Eckhart Tolle teaches us that when we are going through challenging times, this is actually when we have to dig deeper. This is where we have to really kind of peel some layers back to who we are. And this morning, when I was getting ready to talk about today's topic, I wasn't sure what I was going to talk about, and then we had purchased some new Ed Sheeran songs, and I love Ed Sheeran. And I was in, getting ready for the show, and he had a song called "Visiting Hours," and it's something that I've long talked about for years. Like, what if we could have visiting hours to the other side? What if there was visiting hours where you could go and you had a chance to sit on a bench with either one person from history or one person from that you dearly miss from the from the spiritual world, the etheric world, the world of heaven, whatever your belief system is. And so he actually has a new song out. It hasn't come out yet because his album, we just bought the first 3 songs, and we actually bought the song for another song that we saw last night called Shivers, and then he released the other 3 songs because we bought the album. So it's kind of interesting how that song came to my reality, came into my awareness, if you will. And it's called Visiting Hours. And I've long thought about, if you had one opportunity and you're only given that one opportunity, who would you want to sit with? And you had, let's say you had 15 minutes, a half hour, 15 minutes to a half hour to talk with this one person. Who would it be for you? Who would it be? Would it be somebody famous from history? Would it be, somebody that can answer all your questions? Would it be the Buddha? Would it be Jesus Christ? Would it be Martin Luther King Jr.? Would it be Elvis Presley? Would it be Albert Einstein? Would it be Nikola Tesla? There's so many great minds and so many great people of history. And I really thought about this, and the song is really good. I can't play it because it's Facebook. All my songs that I play on Facebook and YouTube are either royalty free or already pre-approved by Facebook and YouTube. So I don't get, because they'll mute you if you use music that's not your own or trademarked or copyrighted. So I really am very mindful of the music that I use on my shows on all my platforms. And I would play the song, but you can go look it up. It's called Visiting Hours, and it's a tearjerker. It kind of hit me this morning, like, who would I sit with and philosophize with and talk with, because a lot has changed. And the first person that came into my mind was my brother Todd. And now, of course, you guys that have followed my work know that I have had a lot of people, a lot of friends, a lot of family move into the spirit world. In fact, a lot of the work that I do today is based on what I call the trauma and the tragedy, or the TNT, that blew my life up many, many years ago and still, resonate and vibrate to this day. But it's a big part of the work I do as the Intuitive Prospector. And to be here on this platform, to be on my radio show, Inspired Living Radio, on Wednesdays. And we're going to have a powerful show coming up on Wednesday, just so you guys know. We're going to be doing a show, 20th anniversary of 9/11 has just passed. We're going to have somebody on where his own intuition saved his life as he worked in the towers on 9/11. And we're going to be talking about this Wisdom Wednesday over on my radio show, Inspired Living Radio. That's internet radio. So just go to marclainhart.com, or you can visit our page here on Facebook called Inspired Living Radio, become an inspired listener. You can listen to the show from anywhere in the world, any device, no passwords or username, no membership, no BS. It's all free. And then we stream through all the several platforms now: YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, Podbean, Spotify, Deezer, Podcast Addict. There's a whole bunch of channels that Inspired Living Radio is now broadcasting through, that you can go and check out our past 6 seasons. But it's going to be a fun, inspiring show, and kind of, looking at intuition with a different set of eyes, and how that inner voice and that intuition literally saved his life from getting on a train. But we'll talk more about that on Wednesday, so I hope you'll join us. But as far as today, we're talking about visiting hours. And if you had the opportunity to talk with a person, who would it be? And for me, because of so many people have transferred over, I don't fear death. I respect death, of course, but it's just another adventure that's waiting for me, is how I look at things now, because I've seen so many people from sickness to suicide to cancer to murder, to just being old and dying and living your life, your destiny. I look at death as the next great adventure for all of us. And when I was listening to this song, I was like, God, who would I sit and talk with and philosophize with? And my brother Todd came into my mind first and foremost, because he was such a intelligent guy. He was very introverted, read lots and lots of books, but he was tested at a young age, and he was very genius level type of person. And I think I'd just sit down with him, because we had an agreement before he passed that he would come back and give me a special, nobody else knows this. I don't ever announce it on my shows. I don't give it away. It's never come up in a reading, but I have a special thing with him that we do. And to have him come back and confirm, like we sit on a bench looking out at the sunset, maybe the ocean, maybe the mountains and the ocean. And we just talk, and he gives me what we talked about that day before he passed in the nursing home, because he had passed from brain cancer at a young age, in his 30s. And just sit and talk about, what is the other side like? That is probably the biggest question I have as a medium. You guys got to remember, those of you that have known me or followed my work or have known my past, I was not into mediumship. I was not into psychic. I was not into spiritualism. I am a religious guy. I was raised Catholic and raised up in the Catholic Church, confirmed in the Catholic Church. I am a minister. I know my scripture, but I'm not a pastor. But I'm not religious anymore. I'm actually more spiritual. I'm on a spiritual journey to look at everything in life, all religions, different perspectives. And it wasn't until the death and dying in my own near-death experience that it changed me to start looking at different modalities and different philosophies. And since, this has been 15, 20 years ago, and started when I was 27. Since those days, I have really, studied and written papers and got accreditations and done thousands and thousands of readings. And with the readings I've done, the information that comes through is very transformative and healing and loving, of course, but it's also very evidential for the person that I'm doing the reading with. Now, it's not about me or being right or wrong. It's not about that at all. It's not the vanity or the ego. It's about my question of, okay, I want to know I'm giving all these messages, and I would love to sit down with my brother who's been there for a while now, over 20 years. Well, no, let's see, just under 20 years. But talk to him about what is on the other side of this veil. What is on the other side of this physical flesh suit, if you will. And it's kind of interesting because it's the song "Visiting Hours" by Ed Sheeran, his new title, that kind of got me thinking about this morning. Because like I said, I took last week off. Happy Labor Day weekend was last week, and I just, when you run your own shows, you can make your own schedule. So I took last week off just to get a break, and took this weekend to go up into the mountains and get connected back to nature and get inspired again. And then thought about, even my wife asked me, she said, what are you going to talk about this morning? And I said, I really don't know. I don't really have an agenda, or I don't have a plan for what I'm going to talk about. And that's what I love about doing this work, because a lot of it is just inspirationally guided. And I trust the spirit world. I trust what is unseen. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there, you guys. The telescope has changed how we look at the world. Literally, our world and our universe. The microscope has changed how we see the world and what we don't see. And so for me, it was, just more of trusting and letting the right message to come through my meditations, my qigong, and my awareness to sit down on this platform and then give you that message, which should be hitting some of you right squarely in the heart. Because it's like, okay, if you had visiting hours, like you were granted visiting hours to go without dying and without passing through the portal of death, and sit on a bench that faces west with the sunset, the mountains, and a river or an ocean, and birds, and the sounds of animals in the distance, and the wind slightly blowing, who would you sit on that bench with? Who would you sit down and have a conversation with? So just take a second, of course, take a breath, because breath is what it's all about in this journey. We forget about that. And of course, a good cup of coffee or a good cup of tea, whatever's your, tickles your fancy. And who would you talk to? Who would you ask to come forward? You had 15 minutes, 30 minutes. I think if I had the opportunity to have two people, first would be my brother, to talk about, have him confirm with our secure password or our secure statement that I knew it was him. And then two, sit down and talk with him and learn all about the etheric world, the etheric plane, the spirit world, the afterlife, heaven, what happens after the physical body moves back to source out of this physical flesh suit that we all wear. Because again, we got to remember the energy that's in our heart. If we bring in science and metaphysics, which I'm a big fan of in my work and my studies and my teachings, I look at the energy in the heart, because as a certified healthcare provider, I have over 25 years of working in the healthcare industry, emergency medicine, firefighting, EMT, working on literally the heart, doing CPR many, many times, actually shocking the heart, P waves, stimulants to get the heart to get an actual wave to actually shock and get that energy back in the heart. So, I always tell people I know a lot about the heart. I have had a lot of experience with death and dying professionally and personally. But the one thing we don't understand is, where does the energy manifest from? It's coming from somewhere. That energy that actually makes the heart and stimulates the heart to actually contract and beat, contract and beat, which then that beating circulates the blood. The blood then allows you to take breath in, and it's a system. But what is the spark plug? It's the same spark plug that makes your engine go, that spark that turns the engine over, right? Where does the spark come from? Where does that energy come from? Some call it the divine source, the God within. But we also know from the laws of physics as we know it today, because I always say spiritualism is what physics hasn't yet caught up to, is that energy has to return to some sort of source, whatever that, and that's where the belief system then jumps in. That's where the belief and the learning or learned behavior from your parents kicks in to where that energy goes back to. Just like a light bulb or this microphone, if I put power to the microphone's off. But if I hit the switch, the power goes away, the microphone is no longer active and it's dead. but it's not energy just hanging out here. It's either in the microphone or it's gone back to source, and vice versa. Or a light bulb. I have a lamp here that's off camera. If I turn the light bulb on, the light bulb gets its energy. It's radiating. I turn the light bulb off, it goes back to its source, the electrical grid, if you will. So, you know, from a metaphysics and science standpoint, we know that energy is always a part of our journey, a part of who we are. Everything is energy. Everything behind me is energy. And if you think about it, we're spiritual, energetic beings first that incarnated through the power of creation, through your mom and dad having sex, so you could be here. And then you manifested into this physical form. And then eventually this physical form fades away, either through, you know, just aging or sickness or accident. But your journey ends here, and this energy then has to go on to somewhere else. And I always go back to John Lennon, you know, where he would always say, you know, death is like getting out of one car and getting into the other. And that's how I look at death now. I think we always, you know, question our mortality, like, how are we going to go? Is it going to be painful? Is it going to be quick? Is it going to be fast? And I've seen, you know, in my journey, almost 50 years on the planet, I've seen, you know, starting when I was really young. I think my first death that I ever saw was, I was on Wabash, so I had to have been about 6 or 7, and I saw a motorcycle accident and was one of the first people to get up on the scene. I didn't have any EMS experience or anything like that, but I just sat there on my red Schwinn bicycle with the big banana seat, me and my friend Wade, just looking at this guy face down in the street. And when they turned him over, that's when I first saw the blank stare, the death stare, if you will. And that was my first experience of death. And of course, it can be very frightening for a 7-year-old, you know, especially with Hollywood and what people say and belief systems. But I've seen it all through my life now, and I've just long wondered, what is it like on the other side? I get hints of it. I get little teasers, if you will, with my readings and what the messages will come through from a loved one. But it would just be nice to sit down with my brother, you know, who left way too early. And I felt like he should have stayed here and I should have gone. I had survivor's guilt for years after that because I lost both my brothers. And Todd left a family. He had a family, you know, 3 daughters and a son. And one daughter, you know, Sarah, is severely handicapped with cerebral palsy. And I just felt like it wasn't fair, because I don't have any children. I just felt like it wasn't fair that he went and I stayed behind. And that's always kind of, you know, I've worked years to get, you know, past survivor's guilt and PTSD with that, and talk about it today. I openly talk about it now because it's a big part of who I am in my journey. But so much has changed since he's left. And that song, Visiting Hours, reminded me, I would love to tell him, I know that he sees of our world. I do readings all the time, and the loved ones come through to tell him, you know, I see of your world and what you're doing right now. I just had a reading the other day where literally the person I was reading for, I gotta be careful how I say this, just so I don't give information away. I'm very private about my readings. She had done something specific in her reality, and then the message I received from her loved one who had passed had asked me, and I asked her, would you understand this? And she said, oh my God, yes, I would. That just happened just a few hours ago. And what I'm trying to say is that for me is confirmation that they see of our world, because there's no way that I would know that she had just done that. That's not searchable. You can't Google that. You can't Facebook that. I don't do that. But for those that are skeptics and the pundits, and and people have done that, unfortunately, which gives a bad name for the rest of us. But what I'm trying to say is that is proof to me and evidence to me that they see of our world. So I know that Todd sees of my world, and I know he looks in to see how his daughters have progressed and grown up and have kids of their own and have gotten married and you know, are living life. But it would just be interesting to sit with him and talk about, okay, what is it like on the other side? How do you know, what's a day like? You know, because we're the only species that measure our life by time, right? What is a day? Is it even called a day, right? Is there, you know, what are the colors on the other side? We only see certain colors here in this world. What are the colors of the other side? Do you know everybody? Do you actually walk to where you're going? Do you float? Do you just instantly think and you're there? You know, the Bible talks about the many mansions in heaven, even just based on scripture. So it's always fascinating to me. I do look forward to that next soul adventure, because eventually I know that I'm going to die, because what's the 2 guarantees in life? Death and taxes. So I would sit with my brother. I would have a long conversation with him about the other side, the etheric world, the etheric plane. How could I be better here to better prepare for there? You know, this world is a tough place. There's a lot going on. What's going on the East Coast with the floods, what's going on the West Coast with the fires, what's going on with this pandemic. This virus, I'm starting to see it's no longer about the virus anymore. It's actually becoming a transformation in consciousness and psychology and sociology and the culture of how this is being impacted. 4.6 million people as of today, 660,000 plus here in the United States that have moved over into this next world, if you will, and how people are, left behind or dealing with that, from mental health, PTSD, stress, anxiety, depression, fear, suicide. There's a lot going on in our world, and then you throw the politics on top of that, the global events of how the world is changing. And, with all of that, it's easy to get caught up in the fear of that. But at the same time, I don't really believe in fear anymore either. There's a real fear of, in life, and I've talked about this in some of my journeys, and, your real fear, you're going to do one of three things. You're going to fight, flight, or freeze. So that's when the real fear kicks in. Everything else we project up here. But, there's a lot going on in the world, and I know that there's a world waiting for me. So it's like, how do you navigate all of this? And how can I be at comfort knowing that my loved ones are looking in on me, and I can just, ask them anytime, and they'll give you symbols, they'll give you signs, they'll give you a different language. That's probably the most interesting thing that I've learned in this journey for Metaphysical Mocha Mondays, to be honest with you guys, is over the course of the last 20 years with death and dying, watching people from suicide to cancer to murder to multiple sclerosis and everything in between, I've understood and come to learn that there is a language that is different than the language that you understand me right now with the vibration off my vocal cord. And I talk about it and I teach about it: signs, symbols, synergy, and synchronicities. And the synergy is your energy that's in your heart that I've been talking about, and the synergy of what has moved over to the other side but doesn't have the physical body. And then that blends together to have messages, to have inspirations, to have motivations. Just like the show we're going to talk about on Wednesday about the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and how Reg used his intuition he didn't have to listen to it. He didn't have to trust it. And he wouldn't be here today to talk about it. And that's going to be an inspiring show. But I've learned that there's a world within our world. And if you're open to it, the more you become open to it, the more you're open to the mystic, the more the mystic becomes aware of you. Nothing from a nefarious, evil standpoint. I posted the other day, why were we taught to fear the witches when we weren't taught to fear the people that burned them alive? Literally, witchcraft has been, around for a lot of years, the Wiccan, and it's based on nature. It's not even based on what the Hollywood movies projected as. And I'm thinking, there's people that killed innocent people, right? So hung them and burned them in the Salem witch trials. And there's just a lot of misinformation out there. And the spiritual journey helps you to kind of tune into the BS meter of life, people that are trying to BS you, but also about your own journey and going deeper. And with all of this stuff going on, as Eckhart Tolle teaches us, this is a great way to go deeper into your own consciousness and peel some layers back. But understand that just because you don't see it here with this eye, if you start to open this eye, you'll start to get a lot of more information from those that have crossed over, including your fur babies, including your animals. And if you ask, believe, receive, and perceive, and you get in the habit of doing that, meditating and prayer and thought and silence and sitting in the power, you'll understand that there is a new form of communication, a higher form of communication, because really this is very primitive if you think about it. This is a primitive form of communication. And I think what this pandemic is doing with the digital transformation, with what they're now calling the Great Resignation, where people are literally leaving their jobs behind to go explore deeper in life, themselves, the world around them. This is part of that transformation, the roaring 20s that I've talked about for 2 years, which is going to include, the next space race of the Industrial Revolution into space. It's going to include, first contact with a civilization that's more advanced than us. It's going to include a national divorce of the United States. I just can't see the United States in my mind and my predictions. I don't see the United States, all 50 states staying together. And that's, that happens. There's different ideologies and different, democracy in the United States is tough because it's 50 self-governing states. And I just see a fracture, hopefully not a civil war, maybe more of a national divorce, where, there's no violence, but we also know our world is violent. So these are coming up in the roaring 20s, including this pandemic that still does not have a cure. There's a vaccine to help mitigate it, but there is no cure. And we know we got around smallpox during the Revolutionary War with General Washington, who required his soldiers to get vaccinated. Then we had polio in the 1930s to get around polio. We got around those through vaccination and science. But what's happening is there's such a divide on this, from even wearing a mask to not wearing a mask, getting vaccinated, not getting vaccinated. It's changing society, and I think that's part of the transformation of where we're going with all of this, and which is going to include a higher form of communication. I've long said and predicted that technology will be a door opening to what is unseen, just like the microscope has done, just like the telescope has done, just like my iPhone sitting here has done, everything Nikola Tesla talked about. And we're seeing a lot of things unfold fast. Time is speeding up. Science has proved that time has actually sped up. But the cool thing about it is knowing that there is another side of this story. There are those that have passed over that still can connect with you if you start to learn this language, this spiritual language, this etheric experience is what I would call it. And if you're open and you're listening and you're aware and you're open to receive, you can receive a lot of information, signs, symbols, synergy, synchronistic events. And it's cool. It's not something that I ever thought that would be my journey or my path. But then again, you play the cards you're dealt, and you do your best at what you can. So today, if I had visiting hours to visit with somebody, it would be my older brother, Todd, who's been in the etheric world, the Summerland, the afterlife for many years. And I just sit on the bench with him for 15 to 30 minutes and talk about what the other side is about. What is it? What's the journey? What's the, follow that white rabbit in the matrix? What is it when we unplug from this side and go to the other side? What would that indicate? What would that be? What it would feel like? What would it look like? What would it sound like? All those different, senses. And then if I had somebody famous, I think I'd probably talk with Nikola Tesla. That guy he transformed the world, but his stuff was covered up and taken by others. He was tapped into something. So I would, sit with the two T's. Tesla and my brother Todd is the two that I would connect with if there was visiting hours allowed. And I think that there are visiting hours allowed if you choose to open your mind, open your heart, and start to explore. And as the intuitive prospector, when I created this concept, it's about using your intuition, your own intuition, which is the language of your soul, to prospect, be a prospector searching for the gold, searching for the diamonds, the diamond within. So I hope that helps. Thanks for hanging out with me. Good morning to my team. We'll get ready for the Healing Cafe. We do have some special guests coming up this month and next month for the Healing Cafe that are going to come in and help me do readings and Q&A. So I hope you'll join me. The Healing Cafe will come on in about 3 minutes after this show ends. This show goes over to my YouTube channel, so make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can visit me at marclainhart.com or just internet search Intuitive Prospector. From marclainhart.com, you can get to everything, my latest article, sign up for my newsletter, Soul Adventures, to keep up with all the events that are coming up. My radio show, Inspired Living Radio. You can ask Alexa to open up Positive Living to get daily spiritual reminders and inspirations. You can follow me at Best American Psychics, Best Psychic Directory, Ariel Spiritual Community. Those are my 3 professional directories that I'm a part of, where I've been tested and vetted and testimonial. So you can do all your research there. I'd love to work with you. I am booked out now until November. And I take the month of December off. So if you're looking to get a reading with me, make sure to get into the month of December, because I don't do any readings or anything in December. It's my 1 month that I take off and get reset for the new year. And I can't believe November is just right around the corner, or December is right around the corner, as we are in the middle of September. So thanks for hanging out with me. I hope to see you in the Healing Cafe, which will start here in just a few minutes. And just remembering those on 9/11, those that have served, those that have been lost, this pandemic, and those that have been impacted by it, our healthcare workers, our frontline first responders. Just know that sometimes it's a thankless job, but just know that there are those of us that do thank you, that do say prayers for you and set intentions for you to keeping us safe for what you do. Police, fire, EMS, doctors, nurses, healthcare providers. So thank you. And we'll see you over in the Healing Cafe. So get your questions ready. And or if you want to have a spiritual chat, I'll probably open up the Zoom room to have some interactions. And as I always like to say, until our next soul adventure together, be kind, be caring, be compassionate. Most importantly, for where you're at in this journey, wherever you're at in this world, wherever you're at in your life, dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live, and discover that diamond within, and set up your own visiting hours to have a conversation with somebody that's passed on. I'll see you next week for Metaphysical Mocha Mondays. Have a great rest of the week, everybody. Namaste.
One planet, 7.3 billion people, only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Marc's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live. For more information on Marc's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marclainhart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.